Okay, so watch. There has to be a balance in order to maintain that pH between 7.35 and 7.45 of the amount of free-floating hydrogen ions and bicarbonate. You got me? So what's the only system that can compensate, help out in a respiratory acidosis? The kidneys. So now watch. If your lungs aren't working so good and you're building up PCO2, it's going to force the equation this way. So you're going to build up more free-floating hydrogen ions. So the kidneys have to help out. And they help out by what? That's right. So if the hydrogen ions go up in the blood, then the bicarbonate has to go up in order to maintain that pH. And how the kidneys help out is this. There's our buddy. You remember, and I'll never forget it, it was a Thursday, I told you that hydrogen ions are difficult to be filtered by the glomerulus, where bicarbonate is not. You with me? So if there's a buildup of hydrogen ions in the blood, you got to get rid of them, and you want to reabsorb some bicarbonate to buffer them. So what the kidney will do is reabsorb the bicarbonate that was going to get peed into the toilet, and then secrete the excess amount of hydrogen ions. So what's going to happen to your level of bicarbonate in the blood if the kidneys are helping out? You're reabsorbing bicarbonate that was going to get peed into the toilet back into the blood. So if the kidneys are helping out, what should happen to your circulating level of bicarbonate in the blood? It should go up. Tell me you got that. You're with me. All right. So that's for a respiratory acidosis. Now look at this. Remember that at the level of the cell, and who cares why right now, if you are producing increased amounts of hydrogen ions, free-floating hydrogen ions, through metabolism, you are producing more free-floating hydrogen ions. That's called a metabolic acidosis. You got me? What's floating around in the blood that can buffer them? Boy, bicarbonate. Are you with me? So when the hydrogen ions, those excess amount of hydrogen ions get dumped into the blood, if they remain free floating, they'll drop your pH. So bicarbonate comes in and combines with the free floating hydrogen ion and locks them up in carbonic acid. Are you with me? So in a metabolic acidosis, what's going to happen to your circulating free bicarbonate in your blood? It goes down. Tell me you got that. You see that? That's beautiful. Now watch. Really important. In a metabolic acidosis, what's the only system that can compensate for a metabolic acidosis? The respiratory system. Because watch, if the cells are making more hydrogen ions, they're going to combine with bicarbonate and force the equation this way. And what's going to happen to the amount of PCO2 floating around in the blood? It's going to go up. So in order to maintain the pH of the blood, if you are making acid at the level of the cell, you have to get rid of more CO2 or more acid at the lungs. Say yes. So watch. If the amount of free-floating hydrogen ions in the blood are going up and the lungs are helping out, what will happen or should happen to the PCO2 of arterial blood? It should be decrease because you're getting rid of, you have to get rid of more acid in the lungs because you are making more acid at the cell. Please tell me you got that. You got that. Guys, this is huge. I was cutting grass, like that's all I do. And I was thinking to myself, you know, this is high-level thinking. It really is. You have to think this through. But that's what they're going to expect from you. So I'm expecting it from you. Say, yeah. All right. And remember, when you look at blood gases, typically, unless the blood is alkaline, the pH is alkaline, you look for the acidosis. The most common type of acid-based disturbance is a metabolic or respiratory acidosis. Say acidosis. Here we go. And when you take the respiratory quiz, if you come up and hand in your test and sing supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, yep. So when you look at blood gases, normal pH 7.35 to 7.45. Then you look at the PO2 or the amount of oxygen dissolved in the plasma. Bless you. And because it's a pressure, it's measured in millimeters of mercury. Then you look at the amount of oxygen that is bound to the iron on hemoglobin. And again, these are arterial blood gases, arterial. So the O2 sat is between 96 to 98%. Then you look at the PCO2, and that's controlled by the respiratory system, and that's the amount of carbon dioxide dissolved in arterial blood. And that's measured as a pressure, 35 to 45 millimeters of mercury. And then finally, you have your bicarbonate level. And bicarbonate level is 22 to 26. Because bicarbonate is an electrolyte, it's measured as milliequivalents per liter. Are you with me? You're following this? Okay. So what I'm going to do for you is I'm going to give you a blood gas, and then I'm going to walk you through the steps on how to figure it out. You got me? And when you explain this blood gas, I want it explained, right? If you say it's an uncompensated respiratory acidosis, you don't get any points. You need to explain it. Why? Say yeah. Okay, here we go. You know, I was thinking too of maybe developing in a game show, like guess grandma's arterial blood gases, right? So grandma comes in, she gets blood gases drawn, and then you have to guess her like pH, and then you do like different things, like you make her run up a hill, right? Or put her in a chamber where there's very little oxygen. Yep. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Okay. So, you get these blood gases on your patient, right? They show up on your little lab sheet. The first thing you do is you look at the pH. What's the pH? Is it acidic, basic, or normal? It's acidic, because anything less than 7.35 in the body is considered an acidosis. So this is an acidosis. Now what you want to do is you want to look at your PO2 and your O2 sat, and this is important. Your PO2 and your O2 sat have nothing to do with the pH. Nothing. All you do is look at the PO2 and the O2 sat to determine whether or not this person needs supplemental oxygen. Does this person need supplemental oxygen? Yes, they do. So you give them some O's. All right? Give them some oxygen. Now, you look at your PCO2. Is your PCO2 high, low, or normal? It's high. So if you have an elevated PCO2, yes? Which way is the equation going to go? It's going to go to the right. And it's going to form more free-floating hydrogen ions. Say yes. You see this. So what's going to happen to the pH if your PCO2 is higher than normal? Your pH will go down. So what is this? This is a respiratory acidosis. Now, what's the only system that can compensate for a respiratory acidosis? And you better get this. How would the kidneys compensate in a respiratory acidosis? It'll reabsorb bicarbonate that was going to get peed into the toilet and then secrete the hydrogen ion. So if the kidneys are helping out, what should happen to your circulating level of bicarbonate? It should go up. No. So let's look at your little blood gas there. Is the bicarbonate level higher than normal? No. So are the kidneys helping out? No. Tell me you got that. Because if they were, the bicarbonate level would be, I'm making this up, like 29, right? It's moving, but it ain't helping out. So this blood gas right here is referred to as an uncompensated respiratory acidosis. The kidneys, which are the only system that can help out with a respiratory problem, they have not caught on. And know this, sometimes it takes hours or days for the kidneys to help out. But if the kidneys help out, they can help out permanently. They can correct any pH disturbance in the body if you live long enough. How many people followed that? You got that? All right. Try this one. All right, so you got this, right? You look at it. What's the pH? Acidic, basic, normal. It's acidic. Now you look at your PO2 and your O2 sat, high, low, or normal. It's low, so you got to give this person some O's, right? Then you look at the PCO2. Is the PCO2 high, low, or normal? It's high. So if it's high, again, which way is the equation going to go, George? It's going to go to the right. And you're going to form more free-floating hydrogen ions. So what is this? It's a respiratory acidosis. Right? We've established this. Now, what do you want to do? What's the only system that can compensate for a respiratory pH disturbance? The kidneys. And how do the kidneys compensate? They compensate by reabsorbing bicarbonate and secreting hydrogen ions. So if the kidneys are helping out, what should happen to your circulating level of bicarbonate? It should go up. Is it up? Yes. But the pH is still acidic. So the kidneys are working in the right direction, but they haven't helped out completely. So this is what's referred to as a partially compensated respiratory acidosis, right? The kidneys are moving in the right direction, but the pH is still acidic. And that acidic pH is caused by the elevated PCO2. Who follows that? Yes or no? All right, let's try this one. Okay, so you're working 12-hour shifts for the next 2 days, and you're in the ICU, and you get this blood gas on this patient. What's the first thing you look at? pH. So is the pH high, low, or normal? Okay, it's normal. So they have a normal pH. You don't ambulate home, right, or go on break. You got arterial blood gases for a reason. So your PO2 and your O2 sat, that's low. So you give them O's. Now you look at the PCO2 and the bicarbonate. The PCO2 is high, low, or normal? It's high. So because it's high, right, what should the pH of the blood be if your PCO2 is 67? It should be what? Acidic. So this is in fact a respiratory acidosis, right? If you just looked at the PCO2, that pH should be acidic. Tell me you're following that. But what's the only system that can compensate? The kidneys. And again, how did the kidneys compensate? For the 1 millionth time, and I told myself 1 million times not to exaggerate, it will reabsorb the bicarbonate back into the blood that was going to get peed out and secrete the hydrogen ions. So what should happen to the circulating level of bicarbonate if your kidneys are helping out? It goes what? It goes up. Is your bicarbonate level up? So are the kidneys working in the right direction? Yes. So this, by definition, is a fully compensated respiratory acidosis. Why is it fully compensated? It's fully compensated because the pH is normal. Both the PCO2 and bicarbonate are abnormal, but the pH is normal. So remember, look for the acidosis. So in this case, the PCO2 is high. That's going to produce the respiratory acidosis, but the kidneys are going to help out, right? And they've helped out fully because your pH is normal. No, PCO2 or bicarbonate. I'll show you, right? But what I wanted you to understand, that's why I tried to drill that equation into your head, that when your PCO2 goes up, the only system that can help out is the kidneys because the kidneys control bicarbonate. Yeah or no? For real? Okay.
So would you give a patient oxygen if their PO2 is like within the normal limits but their O6 down?
Yes, because the best way to transport oxygen is bound to the iron on hemoglobin. So you want to make sure that that O2 sat is in that normal range. You got me? So even though the PO2 is normal. And typically it won't be. All right, here I'm going to give you one, see if you can figure it out. Okay? Okay, and then follow the steps. So go ahead and work on that. I'm going to update my Facebook status with going over blood gases. And I'm going to put a smiley face right there. Okay, you got it? Who wants to try? Greg wants to try because he raised his hand really quick. Go ahead, you guys say it real loud.
Uncompensated respiratory acidosis?
Uncompensated respiratory acidosis? No.
So.
Well, that's your other choice. So watch. Watch. What's your first step? Look at the pH, right? What's the pH? Right, so it's an acidosis. An acidosis. Right? Your PO2 and your O2 sat, high, low, and normal? Low. So you need some oxygen, right? Give them some O's. The PCO2, is it high, low, or normal? It's normal. So are the lungs, the respiratory system, causing this acidosis? So what are your other choices? There you go. So what's happening is this. At the level of the cell, for whatever reason, who cares right now, right? Maybe they didn't read the textbook. That causes acidosis. If the cells of the body through metabolism are making excess amounts of hydrogen ions, they're going to get dumped into the blood. If they remain free-floating, the pH will begin to drop, right? What's circulating in your blood that can gobble them up? Bicarbonate, and it will lock them up in carbonic acid. So what should happen to the circulating level of bicarbonate if the cells are making more hydrogen ions than normal? It should go, not up. You're using up the bicarbonate. Do you see this? So what's going to happen to the circulating level of bicarbonate? It's going to go down. So in this case, the bicarbonate is lower because it's binding with more free-floating hydrogen ions, using it up. So this is a metabolic acidosis. What's the only system that can compensate for a metabolic acidosis? The respiratory system. And how would the respiratory system compensate? By blowing off more CO2 than normal. But the CO2, the PCO2 for this guy is what? Normal. So have the lungs caught on yet? No, because the PCO2 is normal. If the PCO2 was 28, then the lungs would caught on. Hey, I'm making acid at the cell. I got to get rid of more CO2 in the lungs. Yeah, yes or no? For real? This is high. This is, yeah. Yeah. Watch. Who looked at that video? Anybody? How was that video? Did that make sense? Okay. All right, here we go. Watch. And remember, you just look at the PO2 and O2 sat to determine if they need oxygen. That has nothing to do with acid-base balance in the body. Then go ahead and work through the steps. Work through the steps. Okay. Who wants to try it? Okay, Lauren.
If pH is acidic, the PO2 O2 are low, so the HPH PCO2 is low, and so is the bicarbonate. So it's an acidosis, it's a metabolic acidosis. And because the PO2 is low, it's the respiratory system caught on and it's fully compensated.
Not the PO. Did you say PO? Yeah, the PCO2. So it's not fully compensated. And the reason it's not fully compensated is the pH is still acidic. So watch. You got bicarbonate. What's happening? For whatever reason, the cells of the body are making more acid at the cell. Bicarbonate's there to grab it, lock it up. So what's going to happen to your circulating level of bicarbonate if the cells of the body are making more hydrogen ions? It goes down, right? So this is a metabolic acidosis. What's the only system that can compensate for a metabolic acidosis? So you are making acid at the cell, so the lungs have to get rid of more acid at the lungs, more CO2 than normal. Is the PCO2 high, low, or normal? It's low, but the pH is still acidic. So this is a partially compensated metabolic acidosis. The respiratory system is working in the right direction. You got me? It just hasn't gotten there. If it was fully compensated, then the pH would be within the normal range.
What's the normal PCO2 range?
PCO2 is 35 to 45. What is it?
Yeah, 35 to 40.
Yeah, so watch. This is how you remember it. A cheater way. But this ain't a bad way. Do you remember the PCO2? Just drop down the 3,5 and the 4,5. That's the low end and the high end. You got me? Okay.
I thought it was 30.
Oh, that's a bit, yeah. Well, why don't you ask? Well, you guys should have asked. You know, look, my numbers are bad. When in doubt, ask.
So how come it's a metabolic though?
What's that?
30.
I'm not. What's your question?
If the PCO2 is 30, isn't that low?
Yeah.
I think you wrote.
Here, I'll make it obvious. If you're not sure the numbers, ask. That's a 6. see it. Yeah. Nah, it's too big. And then of all days that I forget my key, because I think there's one in the